Good afternoon everyone. So today is probably going to be more of an update slash rant type of video. I just kind of wanted to let people know how things are going for me at the moment and where I'm at and what I'm hoping to achieve this year, I suppose. So really I've been thinking a lot about moving forward and just life in general and what I want to aim towards. And part of that means having to face a lot of mental health stuff, which I've been doing anyway, but I think I'm going to have to go even deeper with it and really feel things and really experience things in a way that I haven't been able to do before. So I've obviously spoken a lot about these things on this channel before, and people are aware for the most part of what's going on for me, but it's very confusing and complicated because I've never been able to get a solid diagnosis. I've never been able to find the right sort of service for me and my needs, and no one's ever really kind of been able to put me at ease really with what it is that I'm experiencing. So when we look at the voice hearing stuff, I was always told that was kind of related to psychosis, and no one was able to really elaborate more on that. They just thought that whatever it was that I was experiencing was something like that. It was related to that. But when it came to things like looking at bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or any of those disorders where there are various mood symptoms and various psychotic-like symptoms, I never fit directly into one of those categories. No one could really say with confidence that this was what I was experiencing or this is what I was suffering from, which made things really hard because I didn't really know what to consider myself as, and I didn't really know where to go for support. So when I think of I'm part of various different Facebook groups, but at times I think to myself, should I really be in this group because I don't have that official diagnosis, even though I have a lot of the same symptoms. I feel like I'm taking up space that I don't belong in, and that's difficult as well. But I did find I don't think it was my discharge letter, but it was a letter that was put together by a psychiatrist that I saw very briefly when I was with a team that dealt with psychosis, and he put on that letter that I had mental health issues with some psychotic features, that I also had some symptoms similar to a mood disorder, and that I actually have a working diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder, but DID doesn't fully explain or encapsulate all of my experiences. So from that you can see there's quite a few different things there, quite a few big different things there, and once I left that team, I wasn't referred anywhere else. I was left on my own. I had no support from a community mental health team. I just had some antipsychotics that I was given, which helped a lot with some of my sort of nighttime hallucinations. But that was it. And then from then on, whenever I've tried to get help, I've either been denied it or I've been told to go elsewhere because the services that have been suggested to me, it turns out that they can't deal with my sort of issues. Then I get passed on to somewhere else, and then they can't deal with those certain issues. And then when I've sort of received therapy, it's usually been on a very short-term basis, like a 16 sessions type deal. I think that was the last time I was with the community mental health team and I got therapy. I think it was 16 sessions, but that isn't enough at all to even get remotely under the surface with all of my issues. And because dissociation is a massive part of it, it's very hard for me to go into therapy sometimes and be able to speak. Sometimes I just can't speak. I switch off and there's just nothing going on. So a lot of the time, when I was younger and in therapy, I got the feeling that it looked like I wasn't being very compliant, that I was resisting help, but it wasn't that. It was just I was in an environment that scared me, and my brain went into survival mode and shut down, and I could never really answer any of the questions because there was just nothing going on, and I I wasn't able to recall information about my past. I wasn't able to really do anything that I needed to do in order to actually get the most out of therapy. So I mean, I am in therapy now, and it's private that I pay for, and I've been going for about a year and a half, and that's been really, really helpful. But even now, we're only just starting to really get to things, so it's been a big journey for me, really. And when I think about dissociative identity disorder, now, part of me is really reluctant to accept that might be what's happening, mainly because when I think of DID, I think of people who have gone through like really horrific traumatic experiences, because with dissociative identity disorder, that can only really occur through severe trauma, and I don't see myself as ever having severe trauma. Any trauma that I might have, I just think of as stuff that everybody goes through. So for me, I feel a bit uncomfortable, really, when I hear all these horrible stories, and I just feel like I've got no reason to be this way when these people have been through far worse than me. And I know a lot of people do that. A lot of people always think that their situation isn't anywhere near as bad as somebody else's, but there's almost a sense of guilt that comes with it as well. Like, again, it's that feeling of I'm taking space from people who need it more than me. But I know that regardless of what's going on, I'd feel that way anyway. Another thing as well is DID is such a controversial diagnosis, in that there's a lot of people who don't believe it's even real, that it's all made up, that there are psychiatrists and psychologists and all that who don't even think it's real. So again, it's such a stigmatized thing that I don't know how I feel about it. And as well with the voices, because I still refer to them as voices, because that's just what I've always referred to them as. I don't switch as such, like when you hear about DID, people switch between their personalities. I don't really do that, or at least I don't think I do that. I do have moments of amnesia, but it's not what I imagine when I hear other people talk about DID and their amnesia. Like, I do get some time lost, but I don't feel like it's a lot, and it doesn't seem to happen a lot. But there are times when I've found things that I've bought and I've got no recollection of, like certain items of clothing and things like that, and there's been times when I've woken up in different clothes than the ones I've gone to sleep in. So I do have kind of weird things like that. And I suppose I would say that when my voices are out, it's kind of like being co-conscious. So it's like we're both kind of in control of my body, but I'm still ultimately in control. So a good analogy is, like my body is like a vehicle, and I'm always in the driver's seat, and occasionally there might be somebody in the passenger seat kind of giving directions, or maybe just taking control of the wheel a little bit, but ultimately I'm in the driver's seat. But looking at it from the point of view of DID has kind of made me look at the voices in a slightly different way, in that I guess I am accepting more and more that they are parts of me, and they are not their own separate entities from somewhere else. Which, I kind of knew that already, but it's hard, especially when their personalities are so three-dimensional. Like, there's so much, like, they're not just random voices. They have history, they have likes, they have dislikes, they have their own, lives going on internally. For these incredibly realistic and sort of three-dimensional characters to not be real or to be parts of me, I don't know, it's hard. It's like if you found out the people you care about aren't real, they're just parts of you. It's a difficult thing to kind of get my head around and to fully accept. And I kind of want to let them have more freedom, and I kind of want to let you guys see them more, and I kind of want to let people around me see them more, but I just don't know how to do that, and I still don't really feel comfortable doing that. Because my family are aware that I've got problems. They're aware that I've been really, really depressed. They're aware, I think very close family are aware of voice hearing, but that's literally all the information they've got. I hear voices. They don't know the nature of that. They don't know the experiences I've had with that, the negative and the positive. So I've got no idea how to really approach this with them in a way that's not gonna upset them or worry them. And my camera died, of course it did. And also as well, if I'm gonna tell my family about the possibility of having dissociative identity disorder, they're obviously gonna want to know what that means, and it means I'm probably gonna have to explain the trauma aspects of that, and then they're gonna want to understand what that trauma is, and I don't want them to feel like they've done anything wrong or that they're solely to blame for this, because I think naturally parents are gonna feel that way. So it's just that I don't want to have to go through all of that right now. And again, it's like I don't want other people to think that my parents have like severely abused me or anything. I don't want people to think badly of them. So yeah, it's just stuff like that really. But I definitely want to be more open about it. And I know I keep saying stuff like that, and I keep every now and again letting little bits out, and I'm just, I'm worried, because I'm worried about the repercussions of, if I'm too open, could something bad happen in the future? Will there be consequences of speaking so openly about something like this? But then, I've spent so long kind of hiding this or covering it up, and it is a massive part of my life, and I don't know how I can live openly and authentically and be myself without letting this bit out as well. And when I think about what I want to do in terms of, work and career and stuff like that, I love making videos, I love doing my art stuff. It would be great if I could do this as a legitimate sort of job, and I know that's going to be difficult because everyone's kind of wanting to do it these days, and it gets harder and harder to actually get anywhere online with the amount of content that there is. And that's been difficult because over the years, I've done my art stuff, and I've done commissions, and I've done work there, and then I've done this YouTube channel on lucid dreaming, so I've kind of gone very deep into the lucid dreaming world and done stuff there. I'm kind of all over the place, and I'm trying to figure out a way of bringing all of these aspects of myself together. So the mental health stuff, the voices, the alters, all of the madness, and how I can bring that together with lucid dreaming, and how I can bring that together with my artwork. And I guess I'm trying to figure out how to market myself, which is going to be really hard, and it's going to be hard to do that without being open and honest about things. But the nature of dissociation is to protect you from things. You dissociate when you're overwhelmed as a survival mechanism. And if I've been doing that since I was very, very young, it's hard to not do that. And it means every time I kind of take a step towards being more open or sharing more of myself, I tend to go through a phase of depression and anxiety and quite severe dissociation, because my body, I'm freaking out. So it's just figuring out how to do that and just taking it at a pace that works. I mean, right now I'm doing a lot of work with Darren, I've mentioned that, and I'm going to be doing more videos, and that's been hard work, but at the same time very illuminating, really. So I'm kind of excited to share more about that. And then you've got all the trans stuff on top of that as well. Like, I do talk quite openly online about being trans, and I talk quite openly in my everyday life about being trans. To be honest, I never thought I was going to be that way. I thought once I'd transitioned, I'd just try and blend in as a cis male, but I actually find myself kind of wanting to talk about being trans, because although I identify as male, I feel male, and I don't identify or relate to being female. I still have that experience of being socialised as a girl and growing up with people treating me as a girl. So, I don't have the cis male experience. My life is different in that aspect. I keep thinking that I want a normal life, whatever that means, but you got being trans and possibly having DID or at the very least having all these different voices and personalities in my head, and being a lucid dreamer and an artist, it's going to be hard for me to have a normal life, and I'm trying to figure out how I can make this work for me, and that's the process that I'm going through. And part of me is a bit upset that I'm doing it in my mid to late 20s. I would have preferred to have been able to do this years ago, because I kind of feel like I'm missing out on what should be the best years of my life. I know that's bollocks, but but at least I am doing it. I'm doing it now, and I'm finding myself, and I'm finding out who I am, and I'm putting these pieces of my personality together to hopefully feel like I have a complete personality at some point, and to feel okay in myself. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. I'm quite tired, and I do apologise. But thank you very much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. I know this week's video probably isn't what you were wanting, but tough. So if you would like to support me on Patreon, you can. I would like to thank these people in particular for being Patreon supporters. If you don't want to support me on Patreon, but you would like to help in some way, you can also visit my shop at Redbubble, where you can get t-shirts, stickers, all manner of things. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I have been Max, aka the Rara Rabbit. See you in the next video.